Hey everyone, LEGO just revealed a ton of new LEGO Star Wars sets, basically the entire summer wave of LEGO Star Wars. So in this video, let's get into these set pictures and kind of dissect them, and I'll give my thoughts on each one. The first set I'm going to start with is the 327th Battle Pack. Now a very common trend with all these sets is that they're all very overpriced. This one's $45 for this Battle Pack. That isn't too dissimilar from one we just got, the Clones vs. Droids, at $30. It's pretty insane to think about, but I won't dwell on that too much because the prices are all so bad in this video. I don't want to just become a rant. Anyhow, getting into the builds, the Spider Droid is not our typical design, which is pretty neat to see. I'm glad they're branching out and trying something new, and I think they might have found something good. I feel like it'll be easier to tell in person, but from the pictures I actually think they improved the design. It looks a bit beefier and sturdier, as well as just having more detail. Accompanying him are 3 Super Battle Droids as well. On the clone side of things, we have this tiny little turret that is basically a throwaway build. They just keep doing this to try to make you feel like you're getting more for your dollar. As far as the ATRT, like always, it's pretty well oversized. It's smaller than previous, and I actually like its design a lot better, besides one little piece. The front blaster is an upside down stud shooter, and it looks terrible. Pretty fun build otherwise. Finally though, onto the 327th minifigures, which is really what you care about in this set. And what do I think about them? Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. Of course, the helmet holes are still present and kind of a nuisance. I'll never understand why they can't just move them down and put them in the right place, or integrate them better. Anyhow though, the rest of the figure is pretty good. No real complaints here. I do think the camo piece could have been better. I really like what they did and it looks great. There's only one slight improvement I would have wanted, and that's a little more of it over the top of the torso. Having it overhang the front would have been way better, because it has this weird transition from print to plastic, and it just doesn't work for me. The cloth waist capes are also missing, which we've kind of come accustomed to at this point. Besides the helmet holes and those cloth camos that we're used to not really having anymore, I'd say it's a pretty good figure. I like it, but at the price point, it's going to be a tough sell. After that, we have the V-19 Torrent Starfighter at a whopping $65. This one is a bit better than some of the others, but as for the size of the set, it just doesn't feel like $65. So from that perspective, it's pretty good, especially compared to the rest of these sets, but in general, I still don't think it's great, just better by comparison. Everything else about this set, though, is really great. The build does seem a little chunky to me. I feel like some angles of these pictures don't look very great and others do, so it'll really be something I have to see in hand before I make a very big decision on this build. I love this ship and I love the scale they chose for it. The old one was honestly probably too big. This one's going to be much more maneuverable, and I'm sure it's a much easier build and more solid mechanism, as there's a lot less weight to have to deal with. And honestly, I don't have a whole lot to say on this Starfighter because of how well it looks. And the excellence only really continues with these minifigures. The Phase 1 clone pilot is amazing to see. I'm so glad Phase 1 troops are not being forgotten after all. Especially pilots, getting the extra molded helmet is so fantastic. It's something we've been needing for so long, and the fact that LEGO finally has done it is great. Especially in an era where fans are pretty divided on the clones right now. This is one that I think everyone can get behind. Besides him, though, you have Clone Wars Asajj Ventress and the Clone Wars version of Obi-Wan. Both are fantastic. Obi-Wan in particular is a perfect minifigure. He has arm printing and his classic Clone Wars armor. It just looks perfect. Asajj Ventress is looking mighty fine as well. I'd say the purple's a bit brighter than it probably should be, but it's a pretty fun look, so I'll let it slide. The eyes are a little weird as they're pupilless. Beyond that, pretty solid set overall. Very good, one of the better from the wave, especially when you consider the price. After that, we have the Separatist MTT. I was really looking forward to the set, a brand new Separatist vehicle. Well, variation of a Separatist vehicle, I guess I should say, as we have seen the MTT before, obviously, but this time we're getting in the blue and gray color scheme from the Clone Wars. I love this look. They nailed the paint job. It looks one-to-one just like the show. And they did such a great job, it makes me totally forget about the fact that this set's pretty small. Like the troop carrier function can only hold 6, which is kind of lame, but One thing I do really love is the pull out function of it. You turn this knob in the back, it looks like, and it pushes it out the front, and you can drop off your troops. Pretty cool. There's these stud shooters up atop that kind of detract from the set, but should be easy enough to take off. That big printed dish on front, it looks amazing as well. Great looking piece. And I think it really completes the set. They did a great job with this one, and at $160 it seems fairer than some of the others, but still, again, not a great price. One standout detail I haven't mentioned about this set yet, though, are the minifigures. Of course, you have a ton of B-1 battle droids, a pilot even, which is neat, but then there's even 3 commandos included, which was such a great call. We haven't seen these guys in such a long time, and I'm glad they finally made a comeback. Although they do look a little off. They have this gray color. I'm not sure if it's just the lighting or the render, what it is, but they're supposed to be brown. So I'm not sure why they look so gray and like metallic in this. Anyhow, onto the 2 minifigures that everyone's going to be talking about. That's Aayla Secura and Commander Bly. Bly has a few little tweaks I could talk about here and there, but overall in the general sense, it's a pretty good figure. Not perfect, there's some coloring issues, a couple mini little inaccuracies, but nothing that overwhelms and really destroys this minifigure in any way. The only big complaint, as per usual, is no cloth camo, but beyond that, pretty good. And Aayla Secura is a really great minifigure as well. I would consider it a downgrade from the previous. I feel like the old one just popped a little more, but this one's okay as well. I almost forgot to mention this part of the build. There's a stab speeder included, but it's actually a different design than most of the others, and it looks like that's because it fits inside the back of the MTT, which if that's what they had to do to get to fit, I guess I'm okay with it, but it does look off to me and I'm not a big fan. The next set is Jango Fett's Slave 1. This set's basically a recolor of Boba Fett's Slave 1 that we got from The Mandalorian a few years ago. But I'm not complaining because that was a very good build. Even if it is small, it's a good build and you can't really deny that. I think especially while the UCS model will be on at the same time, the smaller build isn't going to bug me too much. I'm really excited about this set because, the Slave 1 is just an iconic ship, and I love the blue color scheme even more than Boba's. One complaint I do have though is the annoying stud shooters on the end of the ship. They just look so bad, and I wish they would have kept what they did with the original model, which was more detailed bar pieces. I do really love how they include a stand with this ship. They did with the previous, and I'm glad they're continuing that trend. I wish they do that in more LEGO Star Wars sets, but in this case in particular, it's obviously necessary. One last little detail about the build I'll mention is the seismic charges are included, which is a very nice nod. Definitely necessary, a very iconic part of the ship. Finally, let's talk about these minifigures, which you basically have the same 2 from the UCS Slave 1, just minus a little detailing. So pretty good Jango Fett figure, but terrible Boba figure. The final minifigure is the head Kaminoan on Kamino. This is a great compliment to Obi-Wan's Starfighter. You get all the main characters from that scene in those 2 sets. They're going to play so well together, and there's a reason they've been keeping that ship around for so long. It makes perfect sense now, and I can't wait to have both those 2 together. It's going to be 2 perfect Episode 2 sets. What's not so perfect about this set, though, is the $70 price tag. Not the worst one of the bunch, but not great. The next set is the Republic Juggernaut, also known as the Turbo Tank. This set's a Clone Wars stapled one I look forward to every few years when they eventually remake it. However, this year they took a very different approach. First off, the Turbo Tank is very undersized, especially compared to the older models we've gotten. Now that in and of itself isn't the worst thing in the world, as there is a ton of detail, making up for that loss in size. The Juggernaut is very smooth and has lots of different colored bits and details that somewhat make up for it. Plus, this turbo tank has all the features that normally make them so fun. The first off being those wheels, which are very mobile. It's fun to roll these things around, but I'm actually curious to see how this one holds up as the wheels are brick built. There's a lot of good details around this build, but one that's missing is the crow's nest. It looks very small, very bland. While complaining about the build, I'll also mention the interior, which is quite small, which I guess just goes hand in hand with the overall smaller size of this build. What makes this downsizing so bad though is the $160 price point. I'm not sure where they were going with that because this is not worth $160. At just over 800 pieces, there's no way we can actually take LEGO seriously by offering out the set at $160. And it ruins the set, which is very unfortunate because I only have mostly positive things to say about it. I've already talked about the build, but the minifigures as well are some we've been dying to see in LEGO. You have a few battle droids, of course, but the bigger players here are the clones. There are a bunch of Galactic Marines included in this set. Besides the cloth camo, these clones are missing nothing. I love the brick-built backpacks, and the green eyes look spectacular on these troopers. They even have their signature clone commander included, and as well they have Ki-Adi-Mundi, their Jedi. So overall, it's a pretty cool set, and if it wasn't for the price, I'd be giving this set plenty of flowers, but that's just unforgivable. The next set is from the Rebuild the Galaxy series. It's the Force Burner Snowspeeder. Quite an interesting pick for a set, but this line of sets has never really interested me that much. But I love what they're doing. It's pretty cool. And even though I don't want to buy these sets myself, I can appreciate them. The Snowspeeder overall is pretty standard, but it has this crazy souped up paint job that looks great. It's a very interesting look, and it feels like classic LEGO. That canopy piece they use for the cockpit is spectacular. It really makes me excited for a new regular Snowspeeder because this is honestly a very good build. Besides that, there's also two littler speeders included. The one's pretty chunky and I wouldn't really look at it too long, but the other's a staff speeder, which is a little different from the other ones we've been getting. They had to modify it some to get a minifigure to sit on there. Speaking of the minifigures, they're actually pretty cool in this set. I don't really know any of their names, but the guy with the purple lightsabers, he is really cool. I don't know who he is, but I want that minifigure very badly. And then there's even this guy with an orange lightsaber, which is a pretty cool piece to have. The other guy's whatever, I think we saw him in the Falcon, but... So yeah, I really love what this theme's doing. It's pretty cool to see. Even if it's not totally my thing. So now that I've talked about the entire set, I'll fill you in on the price of $55, which again, just seems too much. Alright, we are finally onto the last set from this summer wave, and that is the UCS AT-ST. This is the final set we'll be seeing in summer. Luckily though, this one's actually priced somewhat reasonably. At $200, you get this big UCS AT-ST. I have no complaints about this build whatsoever. I think it does a great job of capturing the look of the Battle of Endor. Immediately looking at the head of this build, I immediately see that scene in Chewbacca's head poking out the top of the AT-ST. Even the legs have an astounding amount of detail. Looking at the side and the connecting point, no stone is left unturned here. And the UCS line, again, it holds its own. They know what they're doing for this line of sets, and they did another great job with a phenomenal build. And truthfully, I can't say much more than that because it's just a very sound and robust set at a decent price as well. Alright, and with that, that was the final set of the summer wave. So now I want to hear your thoughts. Now that I've shared all mine, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with my opinions? What set's your favorite? And are you going to get any day one? Or are you going to wait for a sale? I'm definitely going to be waiting for a sale because these sets are just way too expensive. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.